Welcome to New Mexico Black Rifle Operators Union. I'm your host, Sean. As I was going through my motions on what I usually do for the news and everything else after I've caught up a little bit at work, I found a really interesting article from timcast.com where a North Carolina school district is installing safes with breaching equipment and AR-15s and extra magazines in every school in their school district. Now, this is for the sheriff's officers, is what it sounds like, the deputies. But this is a very interesting idea because they're leaning into arming or putting an arm at a gun at the school. Now, I know many people would automatically balk at this and push back and go, wow, I don't think that's a good idea. I think this is actually a very remarkably good idea. The AR-15, despite what everybody says, it's not the scariest gun on the planet Earth. It's actually one of the most handy, user-friendly weapons and precise weapons, specifically precise, that you can get on the market. The other thing that's interesting about this is that if you put 5.56, so anyone in the ballistics world or in the 2A has learned over the years that a 9mm actually will penetrate house walls or interior walls and exterior walls more than a 5.56 will. The bullet will, that is. So that's why a lot of SWAT teams went away from submachine guns to 5.56 AR-15s, in addition to the modularity and all the other fun stuff that the AR-15 gives the normal end user. But what this leads to is it gives two things that have always worried me about having guns in schools. One, the gun is secured. There isn't just accessibility to any idiot. I say that because there are some people, if you've ever worked at a school, you love them to death. They're great teachers. They have no business being around a gun. And they probably don't have guns at home. So you don't want to introduce them into that threat, and you don't want to throw into that threat matrix already, and you don't want to throw the unsure parts of that. One, they're not trained with a gun. Two, they're not capable or they've not researched how to use the gun other than what they've seen in a movie. And then the other thing goes to more guns on site does not equal safety. And what I mean by that is more bullets in the air tends to hit more things, correct? And with that, you want precise action taken. Now, I've said this before, I fully believe that there are administrators at sites or teachers at sites that are perfectly capable and have trained on their own as part of their hobby parts that would take to this type of action like a duck to water. And what I would suggest, and what I have suggested to places I've worked, right, where I work, is that I honestly think that if you had a couple, we're going to call them marshals, that actually went through enough training like sky marshals do. Understand what I'm saying. A sky marshal has to be precise enough, and they use special ammunition in airplanes to stop terrorists. Now, since that's happened, since 9/11 happened, there's been more emphasis on us getting more sky marshals in the air, and there's supposed to be, the rumor is that there's one sky marshal in every plane. That's a big force. I could imagine having 2 people at every site trained on how to use this weapon. And why I say 2, I would say more actually, but a redundancy effort here. if one person has the training but is successful in locking down their not their school building, their classroom, they're not going to want to leave it because they don't want to leave the kids behind. That's how it goes. That said, maybe that's the plan, is that they leave the kids, but they're in a secure site of the classroom that you can't see and has the best cover or concealment, at least, that you can get in that building while they go take care of business. But if there is such a thing as one of these people gets hit on the way to go get this weapon, this allows another 1 or 3 or however many other people to be able to get to this weapon and to the breaching tools. And the breaching tools, to me, are just as important. What has to happen with that, though, is training. So I'm assuming, knowing what I know, they're probably talking about a Halligan bar and some other breaching tools that you would put in this safe. And no one has access to it. Again, just the sheriff's deputies. But I think the idea is that they're going to train some people up, and they're going to get them capable of using this weapon that are members of the school district. And after Uvalde, every school is relooking at safety. Every school is, as we start the school year, they're going through their discipline handbooks, they're revising dress codes, all that fun stuff that, kids love so much and parents think is just kind of a waste. But it actually creates a organized environment, I guess is the best way to put it, at the classroom level, that kind of puts everyone on an even keel. And that's the best way to put it. High school and school in general was kind of weird for everyone. We don't realize it until we get out. Today's specialty is everybody's talking about getting rid of public schools. I understand that logic. I'm actually kind of leaning another way. And what I mean by that, I'm about to make a podcast that's just with this audience or on your Donut You Eat It, talking about the argument for public schools and indoctrination. And just to give you a teaser about where my line of thought's going, is that there isn't a person alive right now, religious or not religious, that didn't benefit from the fact of how they were raised in a Judeo-Christian Western society. All these woke leftists that are talking about, that are anti-gun, anti-2A guys. That's what got me trying to do this podcasting stuff. They are the type of people that consistently are trying to push atheism, trying to push for breaking of societal norms. When they do this, they talk about using the social contract that is supposed to be there, but they're not talking about the reciprocal of the social contract. For instance, drag shows were never in mainstream media, but they are now. That's kind of a breach of one of those social norms that was a thing of the past, but is slowly changing, or rapidly changing in some cases. I don't know that that's a good plan. And I don't know why I was going with that indoctrination stuff, the pro side of it. If we actually have real civics in schools, if we actually teach them the rights and responsibilities of being an American citizen, if we actually teach about the greatness that is the United States, not to play it up, be real about the education, but to show them where we are, so where we can go in the future. But you're putting those frameworks in that parents already have done. We just need to reinforce it. What we need to do, really, in school districts, I believe, is just get rid of the social warrior crap and get rid of politics in general in school. Get back to the point where teachers don't espouse their belief system and in other words, there's a mystery about all their belief system, because there should be some mystery there. Kids should actually just be able to form their own beliefs. Now, I also say with that indoctrination type thing is we teach them critical thought, how to critical think. And that's where I'm kind of leaning that there is a viable option here rather than just abolishing education completely, public education. There's a lot to go through there, but this is also thinking outside of the box, that they're willing to put ammunition and guns and breaching tools in schools. I never thought I'd see the day that this happened. Yes, it's in a red district, or red school district, actually, in North Carolina. Whether it's red or blue, it doesn't matter to me. It's the fact that they're looking at all solutions possible. Just some thoughts on this. It's an interesting idea. A lot of people have mentioned in the 2A that for years that we should put a gun in every school. And after having experienced a real life shooting, you realize some things, and that it's kind of changing, life changing, in that you realize that more guns isn't always more security. In my instance, in my case, for instance, I don't know that a lot more guns would have fixed this or made it better or worse, because there was already enough bullets flying going through, building materials, and we were fortunate enough that no one else was hit. But after the fact, when you start analyzing how far, a 9mm goes, because that's what, in my case, the shooter used, it's daunting to think that a 115 grain, jacketed 9mm bullet, non-hollow point, can go through about 7 or 8 non-reinforced, non-insulated interior walls. And that's what I'm talking about, is you own every round, and there's such a thing as over-penetration. And when there's other people's kids involved, you need to be very precise, if at all, with firearm. And when I say overly precise, that's why the AR-15 is queen or king. I have shot many rifles, and by and away, one of the most accurate rifles I've shot is my John Wick build AR-15. That's not me bragging about it. It's just saying that it's a very capable rifle. And that's obviously why they chose this tool to put in that toolbox, is the best way I would put it, for schools. Like, share, subscribe, be great.